What is going on, YouTube? Today I have the Canik Rival S for my initial thoughts and impressions. Picked this one up for about $7.03 out the door. That's after shipping, tax, and transfer fee. And I'm actually really excited to review this one, so let's get into it. First of all, love the hard case. It's got these little push-button locks, which might, feel a little bit cheap, but they do feel sturdy. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually did indeed keep moisture and water out and that kind of thing. With that being said, we get into the boring bits of the authentic paper and manuals and all that fun stuff, which I'm not really going to take a look at. But right off the bat, I have to say, Canik does a really great job making any of their firearms feel special. I mean, we got cutouts for the firearm itself. We got different grip inserts here. Got a magazine, and it looks like a space for the other one that's not in the gun, so you can decide to keep that or add another one to it. Looks like we got some aluminum base plates as well down at the lower end here. Kind of hard to get to, but there they are. They look pretty nice. Well, aluminum for sure. That must be necessary, I guess, if you run the actual mag well, which don't know if I will or not. But again, we'll take a look at it. But getting it straight into the actual firearm itself, the big thing about this gun is that it is a full steel lower or frame. Most of your striker-fired guns, and actually guns in general, either have a polymer or aluminum frame, especially these days. And this one has a steel slide, steel frame, steel basically everything on this thing. So, first things first, even though I know it is clear, we'll remove the magazine. Check for clear. Looks pretty good to me. I think we're good to review the rest of the firearm. So first things first here, we'll just go to the front of this thing. Actually, we'll just do an initial feel and texture. Right now, it is hefty. This might be the heaviest gun that I own. And honestly, that's great for what I'm looking for in this firearm. It is more of a competition-based firearm. Next thing I'm going to check is fitment. And we do have a little bit of play. I don't know if you can hear that. A little side to side. It's not much. It's probably less than a Glock, but it is there. It is noticeable. But it is not much up and down. Really just side to side. But it's pretty tight up front, which is good, because that's where you want your barrel to have a tight lockup. That's how you get your consistent accuracy. With that said, let's go to the front of here. We do have a fiber optic sight, which is... That's fine. It's really, actually quite small, which is fine. I think for the sight radius, though, I don't know if you can pick that up. I think I would want something a little bit bigger. I think that's going to be very difficult to pick up. But hey, I'm probably going to put a dot on it anyways, so I'm not too sure it matters all that much. In the front of the slide, we got a bunch of lightning cuts, which is fine. But the big thing for me is that it's very grippy up front, which means it's easy to rack, easy to get a hold of. Moisture, sweat, whatever it is, that's definitely aggressive enough texture. Not too worried about it. We have a fluted barrel, which is interesting. Again, not too big of a, thing for me. It just feels more of a style thing, and that's cool. It's different. I'm okay with that. I think this gun looks kind of crazy. I opted for the Darkside because it is a little bit more toned down than the, chrome version of this thing. But it is, it is cool. It is different. Looks like we have a metal guide rod here as well. Don't know if that's steel or not, but it is metal, so that's good. We got a little extra weight up front. Honestly, I don't think they're, that effective, but hey, it is nice to see. With that said, moving on back here. It does seem to slide pretty nicely, actually. There's, there's not much anything hanging up here. It is a tilt action firearm, but it is rather smooth. And again, I can rack it from the front pretty easily. Again, rack it from the back if we need to. It is pretty effective in both of those ways. We do have ambi mag release here. I think ambi slide release. And I think ambi mag release, I think you can swap that to the other side, but I'm not 100% sure there. We do have an optics cut here. I do actually have a plate on the way, so we'll kind of see how that works out. But we have stock here, this kind of crazy target iron sight here, which is kind of cool. I've seen these on like nice SIGs and I think high-end 1911s. So it is kind of neat, but the one concern I have with it is this rear sight kind of moves side to side. I don't know if you can see that. And I don't know if it's intended to do that or not, but it does drift up and down. I don't know if that will honestly shift your point of aim enough, maybe at extreme distances, but it is kind of concerning. So I'm not, again, I don't know if I need to just somehow tighten that down with maybe this Allen key over here or something. Maybe that'll fix it right up there. Obviously in the back here we can see the striker indicator, meaning that it is ready to fire. And I haven't even taken this thing off here, so that is going to get in the way of the trigger. But speaking of the trigger, let's talk about it. We got the flat face trigger, which on normal Caniks, if you've ever seen one or handled one, they are rounded and they're still great, fantastic. I don't really care too much one way or another for the flat or curved triggers. They kind of both work fine with me, but this one is supposed to be a nicer one, so let's check it out here. We do have a pretty defined feeling wall here. I can find it pretty easily, and it's almost at the 90-degree break, which is really nice to see actually. Maybe a 4-5 pound break there. Try that again. Yeah, probably about 4, I'd say. And the reset, relatively short. Actually very short in terms of striker-fired guns. Again, the Caniks are actually a clone of Walther, I believe the P99 actually, but maybe some of the later designs. But they are the pre-cocked striker-fired system, which is obviously has great triggers. Even the Walther series does too. So yeah, trigger I'd say is actually really good right out of the box. Gun feels really good in the hand. Getting down to the steel frame, that's where all the heft is. But I was thinking it would feel very rear heavy because I thought this would all be steel in here, but it turns out it's actually pretty well balanced. It is actually more front heavy. If I kind of just let it balance here, kind of near the trigger itself, I kind of let it just fall. Well, maybe it's right about there. Right about in the center here is where the balance is. But again, it doesn't feel nearly as rear heavy as I thought it was going to be. I have seen people put brass grips on these, but I'll be honest, I don't know if I even want to do that because I don't really care for rear balanced firearms. I either care for a balanced firearm or a little bit more front heavy. That's why a lot of people, at least including me, put light on the front of like a Glock or something like that. It just kind of, it makes the muzzle point down a little bit harder, so when you're really running the gun, it kind of mitigates some of that return or follow-up shot recoil, at least in my experience. The frame itself definitely looks cast, I would say. I don't think it's machined at all. With that said, because you can see this kind of pitting, I don't know if you can catch that, but there is pitting in the light as if there was some cast or casting sand or something like that. I forget what they call that material. But I will say it is pretty good. I don't see any defects that I can see at all. We got some actually pretty aggressive checkering on the front strap and up here on the trigger guard. But the rest is actually pretty well smoothed out. And again, I just really like the black version of this. I think in photos especially, the chrome version, which is more of like a silver with kind of a polished side on the slide here, it just looks larger than it is. Like, I thought this gun was going to be huge. I really did, from photos and just things I've seen online. But holding in your hand, I mean, it's really not much bigger than like a G34. So yeah, it actually isn't too crazy. I thought this was going to feel a lot more ridiculous than it is, but it actually feels like a really good handgun. So I'm actually really excited to shoot it and take a look at it. With that said, yeah, I don't think I have too much to talk about on the back strap. It's plastic. It does have texture. It's aggressive enough, but I will probably swap it out with something. It does look like we have some beveling on the magwell. Again, I don't know if I'll pick that up or not, but there it is. So that will help with, you know, reloads and inserting the magazine. And if that isn't enough, again, here you go. There is an accessory for that included with the firearm, and you can put on a magwell if you'd like. So again, I think that's kind of crazy. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, you might have to actually really force that guy on there. But I don't really want to do that because I don't really know if I'm going to run it or not, and I don't really want to mark it up. So that said, I think I'm going to try and take this apart, and let's see what we can find on the inside of the gun here. See if there's anything quality-wise, which is kind of weird takedown. It's kind of like a Glock, but you don't go all the way forward. You kind of go halfway here and you pull out. Kind of feels like a toy a little bit at times, but you know, it is what it is. It's just part of the design. Let's get to the upper after we look at the lower. Looks like we have some lightning cuts up here on the front near the recoil assembly. And again, this must be where all the machining magic has happened, because I have to say, looking at it, it does look pretty good. There's obviously some brass flecks in here from probably test firing the firearm, so it does need a cleaning. I do clean my guns. I know some people like to just run their guns straight out of the factory and expect it to be 100% reliable. I'm not one of those people. I got a bit of mechanical empathy, and I like to at least give them the best shot they can. So I, you know, basically dry them off, run new lube on it, just make sure it's all good, has the best fighting chance it can get, and run it from there. Again, I treat it kind of like I would a new car, and I don't, you know, I change my oil after breaking in the engine, and I change it again at the regulated intervals as required, or even earlier, because, you know, sometimes I keep extending that. But yeah, you can see, I don't know if you can pick that up, but in the magwell, there's actually not as much steel as I thought there would be, which probably explains why it's a little bit lighter in the back. But yeah, you can see there is actually a pretty good job at machining on the inside of this frame. I'm actually genuinely impressed by it. I mean, you can barely even make out the CNC path right there, but you can kind of see it in the light. But they did a really good job at hiding the rest of it. And, you know, obviously you have the rest of the mechanical inserts in there, but pretty cool. Pretty cool, I have to say. Put that aside for now and check out the recoil spring. Oh, it is captured. Interesting. I was not expecting that. I was expecting it to be an uncaptured guide rod, but it is captured. It is indeed metal. I wish I had a magnet on hand. I would just test if it was steel or aluminum. But, yeah, metal guide rod. It looks like there's like some sort of fluting there or something like that. It's cut out or square. There you go. So again, I don't know if that really matters to me. Again, I think a cylindrical guide rod would be fine. Again, I prefer a little bit more weight up front. I might swap this out for either a brass or tungsten version later, but we'll see how that goes. I do have quite a few mods for this, and I do kind of want to run it hard because I got such a good deal on it. Moving on to the barrel here. Again, nothing too crazy. We do have a little bit of a wear mark already. Nothing jumping out at me. It looks like a polished feed ramp there. And again, doesn't look like anything's wrong with the chamber itself. So pretty clean barrel in there. Again, I'm going to swab it, relubricate it, reassemble the firearm. Again, you can kind of see the channel here. Does look like it already has a little bit of wear here. I usually oil this, especially on my Glocks, along with the slide rails as normal. But man, look at all this too. They even cut this material out here on the back of the slide. I really wasn't expecting that. I really wonder what this slide actually weighs. I need to compare that, because I think some of my light G34s are somewhere around like 11 ounces. I'd be very interested to see what this one is. It feels heavier than that. I don't think it's going to be lighter than that. But yeah, other than that, this looks, again, pretty cool. Looks like there's a lot of machining work that actually went into this. A lot more than I thought from, you know, the outside. So that is actually really exciting to see. Again, assembly is pretty easily done, kind of like most other striker-fired firearms. Just put that in there, put your guide rod in, and then this one's the weird part, so we got to line it up. Somewhere right here, there should be channels, and you gotta pull this little switch back, and then you should be able to slide your slide forward. We'll check for function. And I think we're good. There we are. Initial impressions done for the Canik Rival S. I have to say, I'm excited. I hope to put a bunch of rounds in this gun. Again, $700 for a full steel frame firearm is kind of nutty. Kind of insane. The trigger feels pretty good. I'm hoping it breaks in a little bit more. Might try out the magwell here, but for sure I think I'm going to do some mods on the inside of the firearm. Maybe lighten the trigger up a teeny bit or play with that a little bit. Definitely throw a red dot of some sort on here, but yeah, if you'd like to follow along or have any questions on the firearm, please let me know. Leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.